So guys, the pilot starts in a really strong way. We can say maybe is a reflection of the situation of America in these days. Are you agree?
Yes, I would say that, when we see the show start, for example, the first moments that we see Lola and Mark, there's a young kid who's stolen her laptop. And, for better or worse, they decide how they're going to handle it, and sometimes somebody just needs a slap on the wrist and to be let go. But then you go inside of the courtroom and it's a completely different situation. You've got a young woman who is, going in front of the judge, and she's such a non-entity that they have ignored the fact that she does not have on pants. And it's a moment of levity in the show. And yet at the same time, this was a real scenario that actually happened in a courtroom. And it's indicative of the way that we view people who are accused of a crime. They're not always guilty until they're proven innocent. Sometimes they're just assumed guilty, and then as a result of that, less than human. And we need to treat them as such. And I think that we're seeing that in the United States especially, but we've been seeing it around the world for a very long time. And hopefully this show does a good job of highlighting that in a way that allows for our audiences to examine some of the things that they accept in their own towns and cities and cultures, but then also challenge and question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to say that the American justice system is a massively complicated, complex system would be probably the understatement of the millennium. But that's, what our show kind of seeks to do is examine individual stories, individual inlets into that world that allow us to explore all these very confusing, sometimes unjust, sometimes corrupt, sometimes ambiguous levels in which our justice system operates. And the truth of the matter is, it's probably not a whole lot different in Italy and France and Brazil and anywhere else. You're talking about systems that that not only are complicated, but that by their very nature are in some ways weighted to be complicated, so that certain people or certain types of justice are meted out in certain ways.
But this is a story also on how you can realize your dream if you work hard. So what do you think about it? Is it true?
Well, I think, Lola's character in this show is, I think, a super inspirational one. And she is somebody who has put the work in and risen through the ranks and now is realizing her, essentially some version of her childhood dream. And I think that that's both super inspirational, and the flip side of that is that she ends up in all these really challenging situations over the course of the season, where just because you've arrived where you think you want to be doesn't mean that you're not going to be challenged constantly with the idea that you should be there.
I think also what's great to see Lola ascend to this, amazing position at her age as a woman and as a woman of color. It's inspiring. But then it also makes us look at, the state of the American justice system and how few women there are that are judges, and how even smaller a percentage of women of color that are judges. And I think, I personally get messages all the time from young women who are in law school or who are in college preparing to go to law school, who say, your show has really opened up my eyes to the possibility of being a judge, which is something that, if you don't see it, you can't dream it. You can't believe that it's possible. And so I think that, to be able to be these men and women who represent people from various backgrounds and cultures, to show young people all over the world that you can be a part of a system and you can enact change, and it doesn't matter where you come from.
And TV history tells us as an audience that we are in love with legal series. Why, in your opinion, are so successful?
I mean, part of it, I think, is just the wealth of stories that you have an opportunity to tell. The depth and complexity of the legal system, of people's, sagas through that system are incredibly rich, for better or worse, you know. So and then you also get to live in the world with a bunch of hyper intelligent, very well dressed.
But I also think what's really cool about our show is that we take this idea of the legal drama, the large ensemble, and we kind of turn it on its head. You know, we can't really say that this show is just a drama, nor will we be able to say that it's a comedy, but it really goes in between both worlds seamlessly. And I think it gives audiences something that they haven't seen in a really long time.